like to talk.
You want to talk?
You're listening to Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday, the official podcast of Black Fawn Distribution, broadcasting live across the planet and retransmitted on all major streaming platforms. Tonight's program is brought to you in part by Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course Canada's #1 genre film company, Black Fawn Distribution. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't make it, so here's what you get.
It's really not that bad.
You are going to hell.
Here's your host, Benner from Black Fawn Distro.
All right, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. I'm your host, Benner, from Black Fawn Distro, and hey, listen, we got a really cool program going on tonight, and we're broadcasting live, of course, to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and then retransmitting on all the major platforms for podcasts or wherever you get your cool podcasts from, including Apple and Spotify. So please remember, whatever platform you're tuning in on, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and we appreciate you listening to us and tuning in for the program, but also we appreciate the support, not just for us, but our incredible guests that we have on the program each and every week. So thank you very much for that. Welcome back to another episode. This is I guess our second episode of 2022, and a quick shout out to our sponsors, Wellington Breweries, Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, and of course Twisted Teas. They keep us going. They've kept us going through the pandemic, and they've contributed a lot to our company. And you can check out all of our merch at blackfawndistribution.com. Check out all of the merch and our movie titles that we have available in our online store there. So we've got a great program, like I mentioned. And listen, if you're a fan of cinema, if you're a fan of independent filmmaking, if you're a fan of just cool stuff that goes together, like audience participation at movie theaters or retro cult classics or anything like that, you're really going to enjoy this program. We've got Lee Demarbre from the Mayfair Cinema and Mayfair Theatre, from Ottawa. And if you've ever been to this place, it's an absolutely amazing, iconic, majestic theater. It's almost 100 years old, and Lee's actually been the programmer there at the theater for the last 12 years, as well as co-owner. So he's an accomplished filmmaker himself, and we're going to get to all that stuff very soon. But listen, you know the drill. Before we get there, before we get to anything, we got to do something as fun as we can make it, and that's hit the news. So let's hit the news, and I'll be back right after this.
Top story. Top story.
We'll give you the world. We'll give you the world.
This may be the most important decision of your life.
Can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
You can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Top story.
And remember, we care. We care.
There are certain inherent risks that come with the territory.
Top story. Top story.
We'll give you the world.
Top story.
Okay, and we're back with another edition of the news. That's right. I've got my tie and my jacket on, and let's see here. Give these papers a shuffle. Let's get into it. We'll keep it short because we want to get right to Lee and talk about all things the Mayfair Cinema, Mayfair Theatre, Mayfair independent filmmaking, as well as Lee's own filmography of stuff that he's done in the past, as well as working on currently. So let's get to it. Our top story tonight. Guess what? It's fucking cold out. That's right. Winter is here. We've got a ton of snow. It's minus 1,000 degrees outside. So if you're living in a tropical part of North America instead of a snowy part of North America, we all hate you. So just so you know, that's our top story. But just kidding. We don't really hate you. We're just supremely jealous of not having to of you not having to dig your cars out of snow, your walkways, and all that fun stuff. It's a disaster if you are living in a northern part of North America right now, like we are kind of, I guess, in the southern part of Canada, which is the northern part of wherever. Anyway, it sucks. Moving on. Just a quick update. We've got our Infamous Horrors contest going on right now. If you haven't actually entered the contest, we've got a massive prize pack available through them. We're partnering up with Infamous Horror, who are they are basically a horror community operating out of Montreal, Quebec. And what you can do is you can check out their post on their Facebook, and I'm just going to throw it up on the screen here. So you can check it out, but we're sponsoring this package in conjunction with them, which is a grand prize, tons of Blu-rays, DVDs. You've got the Black Fawn Distro toque that I'm wearing tonight because of, everything that all the snow and stuff and that sort of stuff that we've got going on. So listen, if you need a toque, make sure you order one or enter this contest, and you can win this along with coffee, a Black Fawn trucker hat, a bunch of DVDs and Blu-rays. And of course, how do you enter it? Go to their Facebook page, like and comment on the post, subscribe to the Infamous Horror YouTube channel, subscribe to the Black Fawn Distro YouTube channel, and then share this post. Share the post that's on there, and you'll be entered in to win this amazing prize pack. And of course, you have to do it, and you have to enter before January 31st, 2022. So you got a couple more weeks. Make sure you check them out. Infamous Horror, thank you so much for, working with us and bringing this kind of contest to the masses. Lots of people staying at home right now, and that's unfortunate. But again, there's lots of stuff online that you can support and you can do so. And this is one of them. So check out the toque. That's right. It's winter. It's cold. I got to wear it even in the house. That's how cold it is in Canada. Now, moving on, we've got, like I said, we've got Lee. He's in the green room. I think he's giving me the thumbs up. If he can hear me okay. Yeah, he's ready to go. But listen, we got a couple more news items just to go through. And of course, we like to do a physical media little review right now. And this week, for kind of an obvious tie-in, we are doing the Underworld set. This is a really, really cool 4K box set that just came out from Sony Home Entertainment. I bought this myself. It wasn't shipped to me, but Sony, if you're listening, that's a heads up for you. But really, really cool set. If you like these movies, this pops open like this, and you've got all the 4K movies in here. I won't take them all out, but as you can see, really, really nice packaging. Really different artwork on in each disc. I haven't got through the whole collection yet, but the first movie looks absolutely amazing in 4K. And of course, we've got Lee in the studio. He knows a lot about resolution and the differences between that stuff. And we're going to get to that with Lee once we have him in the studio here on the screen for you. So Underworld, the 4K collection from Sony Home Entertainment. You can order it from your local home video store, wherever sells movies. They should be able to get this in for you. It was pretty decent price and really cool. Really cool packaging. We love this stuff as physical media collectors. It's always cool to see this stuff kind of come out and buying it and putting it on the shelf. So Underworld, the classic battles between vampires and lichens or werewolves or whatever you want to call them. And of course, it wouldn't be a news update. It wouldn't be a complete news update, I should say, without the fried chicken sandwich report. That's right. That's where I go out and check out a fried chicken sandwich. As you can see right here in the top of your screen, that's me eating a fried chicken sandwich from last week. Fried chicken sandwich report. I go out and eat a fried chicken sandwich and then tell you how good it is. And this week we went to all the way to Toronto, which is about an hour from where the studio is located. And we checked out Knockout Chicken. They've got a great high-end Instagram. They talk a big game on Instagram. Huge sandwiches, awesome platters, wicked photos on there. It got, very, very tantalizing Instagram. So we went all the way to Toronto, check out Knockout Chicken on a Tuesday night. And we got this is the picture of me eating it. I got the Club Fighter chicken sandwich, and it was pretty good. But again, we rate it based on size, we rate it based on price or value, and we rate it on taste. And I gotta say, like a little, I don't know, not enough steak for me. Almost too much sizzle. I think I got overexcited from the Instagram. So I don't want to knock them down too much, no pun intended. But they got some good things going for them. They got this wicked thing on the wall, which is Crispy Jim and Flavorful Floyd, which are obviously two cartoon chickens boxing it out, duking it out. Knockout Chicken, Kings of the Ring, as it says. But listen, when I tried the sandwich, it was okay. It was pretty good, but I was expecting a little bit more. It's kind of expensive, and also the taste was really great. Had jalapenos on it, so that was a nice kick. Obviously something a little bit different, but no cheese. So I was a little disappointed in that, but overall, a decent sandwich. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5. We only rate stuff on this show using the film rating 5-star system. No 10s or 7.5s or anything like that. It's 1 out of 5. You can use half stars. I'm using one today. 3.5 out of 5. Knockout Chicken in Toronto. But listen, I should say this. There is a caveat to this. They have a kick-ass platter. There's this amazing platter that they have. They talk about it all over their Instagram, and it's got like fried chicken and chicken wings and sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I think it's like $36 or something. So my recommendation is if you go to Knockout Chicken, get that platter. That's what I should have done. And I was disappointed in myself for not getting it as well. But listen, fried chicken sandwich, that's the report. Let's go to the standings. We've got still in number 1, we got Coco's Chicken, and we've got that tied with Tall Tree Sandwich Co. operating out of Hamilton for their fried chicken sandwiches. Both those chicken sandwiches are tied. And then we've got Zinger Chick with the bronze medal still at 4 out of 5. Everything else is a 3.5 or lower, as you can see. And I think the A&W chicken burger got dropped off the list this week. So they were in 10 last week. They're gone. So listen, if you've got a suggestion for a chicken sandwich place to check out, make sure you drop us a line and let us know, where we can check it out. We'll try and get there as long as it's not 1,000 miles away. We will try and get to this chicken sandwich place and give it a bite, so to speak. And then we'll report back to all of our viewers to let you know how good it is. Now, moving on, let's talk about our guest tonight. I am so pumped to have this gentleman on the program tonight. It's Lee Demarbre from the Mayfair Theatre. He's also an independent filmmaker, an award-winning independent filmmaker operating out of our nation's capital of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. So Lee's been in the film business for over 2 decades now. And in addition to his filmmaking accomplishments, he's also the co-owner and the programmer of the iconic Mayfair Theatre, which if you haven't gone to at all, if you're near Ottawa, you need to go check this place out. Make sure you add it to your bucket list. It's an almost century-old movie theater located in Ottawa as well. And they've got a whole bunch of programming and really cool events that they host. And we're going to get into that all with Lee in just a second. But Lee's short film, Harry Knuckles and the Treasure of the Aztec Mummy, I have to read that title. Awesome. Was the first Canadian film to take home the coveted Spirit of Slamdance Award at the Slamdance Film Festival. He's gone on to direct 7 feature films, including the cult classic Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, the horror comedy Smash Cut, as well as starring the legendary David Hess and Sasha Grey, I should mention, as well as the wrestling documentary Vampiro, Angel, Devil, Hero. Lee is currently in the process of completing his 8th feature, which we'll also get to talking about a little bit later on. So let's take a quick peek at a couple of trailers, just so you know what this guy's body of work looks like, and it'll help you kind of get into the groove of, what you think, if you think of some questions. And if you got some questions, make sure you leave them down in the comments section below, because we'll get to them live on the air, and we'll try and throw them up as we go. And we'll get some answers from Lee about some of these movies, as well as other stuff he does at the Mayfair and the other stuff, the new stuff, that he's working on currently. So let's take a couple of seconds or a couple minutes, to look at a couple of trailers. And look, we've got indie filmmaking master and super cool cinema programmer, Lee Demarbre, live on the other side. And we're going to get to him right after this.
In the new millennium, vampires no longer fear the sun. Now they're going to learn. It's time to fear the Son of God! Caracas is Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to show you the coming attraction for a motion picture called Smash Cut.
Allow me to introduce Abel Whitman.
Action!
That guy makes Ed Wood look like Orson Welles.
My God, it's so fake.
Abel, my boy, don't let the reviews get you down.
What are you? The good? The bad? No, the ugly.
I'm gonna kill you. And then I'm gonna cut up your body into little pieces and use them in my movie.
Action!
He's going to kill everyone! April Carson, WKY-TV.
Tell me you're here to audition.
Yeah, totally.
Here, use this.
What's that smell?
It's just a prop. It's only a prop. Cut! That's a print.
You're young, you're perky.
You're better every day, April. But today, you're acting as if your life depended on it.
You should be in front of the camera more.
For those of you who appreciate this type of cinematic art, you will see the most startling scenes of their type ever filmed.
I'm taking the script out of your hands, Alan.
But for those of you with heart conditions, or who are with young and impressionable children, we ask that you turn around in your seat or leave the auditorium immediately.
It's gonna be a bitch for makeup department.
It's cut check time. Art is worth suffering for. I've always said you have really good eye, Armand. We really have to show the people what filmmaking is all about, what real filmmaking, what the art of filmmaking is all about. We've got to snap them out of their complacency. We've got to show them the suffering and the hurt and the pain that goes into filmmaking.
I implore you, ladies and gentlemen, to never forget that filmmaking is a blood sport. Watch if you must, but remember, you were warned.
Who's putting this on again?
Whitman, Abel Whitman.
Jesus, I hope he makes a movie someday.
You'll be immortalized in Abel Whitman's next film, whether you like it or not.
All right, and we're back. And that was a look at a couple of awesome trailers from my friend and I guess friend of the company, friend of the show. This is the first time you've been on, but Lee Demarbre, welcome, sir. How are you? Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. I tried to fix my lighting situation, and I put in my new toupee on, so I dressed up just for you.
Well, we appreciate it, and of course, we're broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. But of course, we rebroadcast or we retransmit on all the major streaming platforms for podcasts, so cool. Including Apple and Spotify. So don't worry, our retransmission is going to go out just audio only, so you don't have to worry about any of the lighting. But I think it looks cool, man. I think you have this classic movie thing going on in your wherever you are right now in the background, which is really cool because you are the guy I know and I would classify as the classic cinema dude that knows everything about that old school shit.
I'm passionate about it. You know, you always meet someone who knows more about movies than you do. But sometimes I think, but I'd like to think I love movies just about as anyone, as more than anyone else. Not anyone else, but I love it more than I know about it. I'm not one of those guys who has a photographic memory. But I certainly love cinema, the good and the bad.
Well, I know we met you a few years back. I guess, it must have been, I want to say probably about 6-7 years ago. And we screened one of our releases, Disco Path, at the Mayfair.
Wonderful.
And it was you had called us or emailed us, I think, and told us how much you loved the film. And we were able to make it happen. And it was awesome. And just to give people just a quick kind of just a heads up as to what this place looks like, and we're going to get into it in a few minutes for sure. But I'm just going to throw this up on the screen, which is this is a picture of the inside of the Mayfair. It's an absolute classic looking cinema, movie theater, whatever you want to call it. It was an absolute treat to watch our film screen there, and since then we've seen I'll Take Your Dead as being there. I think Better the Dead played there as well. But it's just a fabulous place to check out films, and of course, with the pandemic and all that stuff, everyone's sick and tired of talking about it. But, you guys are closed right now, but, we're going to get into talking about what you have coming up when you do reopen. Like I said, I tell everyone who ever goes to Ottawa, I say, make sure you go to the Mayfair. It's an awesome place to check out a film. And it's an experience like that you don't get or you wouldn't get at any of the bigger cinemas. So, but listen, before we get into that, I want to jump into talking about you're an independent filmmaker as well. And at the top, I said, you've been in the game for over 20 years now. You've got a whole host of projects that you've completed, that you're working on, that you've done. How did you get into that originally? Because I actually don't know that. And what draws you to the different style of projects, or what has drawn you to the different styles of projects over the years?
I'll try to tell the story short.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's a long one, and I tell this story to my friends. I don't know if I've told it in full detail to anyone who's been recording me saying this, but I remember, I grew up. I moved to Ottawa in 1977 when I was 5, and for the first 5 years of my life, I lived in a city in Ontario that didn't have a cinema. So I moved to Ottawa the year Star Wars came out. And that was a big deal for me. And it was a movie that I loved so much. My mother kept taking me to see Star Wars over and over again in theater. And then Jaws 2, I remember being the next big one. Not Jaws, but Jaws 2, I was thrilled by as a kid. And then my mother just started taking me to see movies almost every weekend. Usually Sunday night before, maybe around 7, we go see a movie, and then I go to bed and get up and go to school on a Monday. And that lasted from, almost a decade. Until I remember moving to Newfoundland and coming back to Ottawa in 86. And my mother took me to see everything theatrically. And I still can't believe the kind of stuff I saw theatrically. Like a movie like Time Bandits, the Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits, I saw when it came out opening weekend and was thrilled by it. Rambo, the sequel to First Blood. Night of the Comet was a big one for me. I remember being young and seeing this zombie movie on the big screen. And I thought my mom was so cool to take me to see something like that. Some movies I was afraid to go see. I didn't want to go see Stuff. I thought the ads in the paper for the Stuff looked too terrifying. I remember I used to love looking through ads in newspapers. The Fright Night, the original Fright Night. Anyway, how did I become a filmmaker? I'm telling you this because my mother, saw that I loved seeing movies on the big screen and thought maybe, and I realized I can't remember how old I was, but that filmmaking was an art form, and that may be something that I could pursue. And so when I moved to Ottawa from Newfoundland in 86, I wanted a video camera. But video cameras, were expensive. I wanted to spend about $1,000 on a video camera. And as a 14-year-old kid, $1,000 was a lot of money. And I went to work at a Chinese restaurant here in Ottawa run by the Italian mob.
Okay.
And I remember it was a crazy place. We ran prostitutes out of the kitchen on the weekends, and I was 14. And there was a machete fight in our kitchen once, and Mr. Moon cut off Mr. Hum's fingers, and they wanted me to replace him. But shortly they found out my dad was a cop. So they moved me to a different location. With less crime. And I remember as soon as I afforded that video camera, I quit. I needed to get away from prostitution and knife fights. And I remember being young, and I was the only kid in my high school who had a video camera. And I wasn't a particularly good reader. I wasn't a bookworm. I had a hard time with the English language on print. It took me a while. It actually was foreign cinema. Going to see subtitled movies in the theater made me, for the first time in my life, concentrate on the words I was reading. I had a hard time reading books. And so I always asked my teachers if I could do a video instead of an essay. And a part of that was doing it as a presentation in class. And the teachers loved it, and I loved presenting my videos. And I would help other students with projects and, video. I eventually would go to work and do live camera, through co-op. I did a lot of live camera and I would film hockey events or, sporting events, political events, and learn framing. And I loved impressing my directors and did live camera. I was good at live Zooms. That's really nerve-wracking to do a Zoom on a live televised event. And then to hear the director, oh yeah, Lee, oh yeah, that's so good. It thrilled me.
And that's why you agreed to do this show, because we go live every other Tuesday, right?
It's nerve-wracking, but it brings out a nice energy too. And so I went but I didn't realize, I recently transferred all the films I made in high school because I would do videos on the weekends with my friends. We called it basement wardrobe because we usually shot it in someone's basement and we would raid our parents' wardrobe and we would make these short films. And I digitized 88 short films that I made in high school with my friends, like serious things that we would edit in camera. So you would film, and if you didn't like a take, you would rewind and tape over what you just shot because you couldn't. I didn't have a way of editing until I got a camcorder with flying erase heads, and I could do that later on. But you would lose generations. I wanted to keep the quality up. It was crazy how we made movies back then. But when I went to university, I realized there's difference from seeing what I'm seeing in the theater and what I was doing at home. What was that difference? And I realized, it's because celluloid. Hollywood films are being shot on celluloid. And there was an Ottawa filmmaker by the name of Frank Cole who made these incredible films in Ottawa. He's one of Canada's best filmmakers. And I went to see his retrospect at the Arts Court here in Ottawa, and I saw all those films on 16 millimeter. And I kept looking at the projection booth, the little window, and seeing the film go into the projector. I'm like, that's it. If I want to take myself seriously as a filmmaker, I have to learn how to shoot on film. And Frank Cole was that who inspired me. So I joined IFCO and learned 16 millimeter Bolex. And Jesus Christ Vampire and the Harry Nichols movies were shot entirely. I had the camera in the other room. I wish I brought it out. Shot it on I have this Werner Herzog a Blu-ray box set here. It's about this big. The camera was about this big, and it was a wind-up camera. It was no batteries, and then nothing plugged in. And I shot 2 feature-length films on a camera like that. And because the camera was loud, and so I couldn't record sync sound. So we post-dubbed, we bring the actors in months later to record their dialogue. So, sometimes the sync isn't perfect. It's never perfect, actually, in the movie. But, we were inspired by movies like The Golden Harp, the movies coming out of Hong Kong from Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung that were all like that. And the Italian movies from Sergio Leone to Jess Franco, whoever, they were all dubbed. And how did I remember my mother only took me to see Hollywood movies. And when I went to Carleton University taking film studies, I remember going to Carleton first year, and one of the students who was in the class with me said, Lee, let's spend this whole summer watching movies. So when we get to first year film studies, no professors would take us seriously because we've seen these movies. And she says, what movie should I watch? And I recommended, you got to watch the Godfather movies. Make sure you see those. They'll laugh you out of class, the Casablanca. And I recommended all these classics. And 4 years of university, we never watched one of those movies. Because I think up until I went to university, I was always just focused on Hollywood. So I was introduced to foreign cinema and national Canadian cinema, and that just blew my mind. And so I was, by the time I was ready to make my first film on 16 millimeter, what to make first, I realized that all these genres and national cinemas that were in my head sort of came out of Harry Nichols. Harry Nichols isn't one thing. It's my love of many things of cinema. It's a kung fu action comedy horror musical, that's what all those movies are. So it's got so much, there's so much in there, being inspired by, the trash cinema of John Waters, from John Waters to Woody Allen to Monty Python, to Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. Like, my inspiration is just all over the place. And I think the films maybe reflect a little bit of that.
So was Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter your first feature?
That's right.
Right. Okay.
I made a film called The Hacker in high school, which is on YouTube, and I shot it on VHS, and it's about 45 minutes long. And, I remember, how I used to distribute my movies? So I worked at a video store, and I like telling the story. And I don't remember VHS tapes. I don't even know if you're old enough, but VHS tapes had a tab.
Oh, yeah.
And if you broke the tab off the tape, you couldn't tape over. So all these new movies are coming out on VHS with the tab broken. And I wanted to distribute my short film so I can tell my friends at school to go see my film. So I used to put tape on the tab. I used to work at Westco. Put the tape on the tab, and I'd put my short films. I'd dub my short films after feature-length films. So if I would tell my friends at school, if you want to see my new movie, watch Lethal Weapon 2, fast forward after the credits, and you'll see my new movie. And that's how I got my films out there. And that was a fun way to do it. And then when we made The Hacker, we had VHS tapes made, and I got them distributed in Ottawa on VHS to a few video stores, which was cool. But Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, yeah, that's my first feature-length film, shot entirely on 16 millimeter. Took 2 years to shoot because we were only shooting on weekends with friends, and that was the time of my life. But make movies like that was the thrill, and it got out there in a big way. It's funny thinking back on. I thought the film would never leave Canada. I thought I'd show it here in Ottawa, maybe Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Victoria, maybe somewhere in the prairies, the Maritimes, and it'd be done. But then this little movie played at the Bytown Cinema here in Ottawa called Six String Samurai, which was an American independent kung fu movie, which Jeffrey Falcon's in that movie, who I really liked as a martial artist. He went to Hong Kong and made some cool movies. And he made this, and the poster was at the Bytown, and on the poster it said select, official selection of the Slam Dance Film Festival. I'm like, Slam Dance? Never heard of Slam Dance before. That must be like Sundance, and found out that Slam Dance takes place in the same city at the same time as Sundance across the street. So the filmmakers, everyone at Slam Dance were filmmakers, American filmmakers who were frustrated they couldn't get their films into Sundance. They felt that Sundance had become too commercial. And so here they were making their own festival, and it was cool. I was like, oh, I'll submit Harry Knuckles. And we got in and we won. And then the next year we went with Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. And what a thrill to go to Park City. And, there's Roger Ebert. Come to see our movie. It was fun doing that kind of stuff and pimping our films and being around American independent filmmakers, because American independent filmmakers are really inspiring, I find. I find Canadian filmmakers, they won't make their movie unless they get their grant. I'm going to apply for a grant. If I get rejected, I'm not going to make my movie. But American filmmakers spend their own money. They max out their credit cards and max out their parents' credit cards. They get their movie made by any means necessary. And I love that spirit.
It's that Wild West. It's kind of like it's sort of like that Wild West spirit, and I know exactly what you mean. Like, I mean, just being obviously our sister company, Black Fawn Films, is the production wing of our enterprises, and I know, even talking to Chad and Cody and the guys over there is just like, it's not necessarily that the grants are not. It's not like they're not a good idea. Of course they are. They help out a lot of people for sure, but we just feel like sometimes we're on the timeline where the grant application process sometimes doesn't line up with, what those guys can do in a specified bit of time, right? Where it's like, if you had to wait for grants, you'd be waiting forever to kind of make your movie. So it's interesting to hear you say that. It sounds like it's been like that kind of for a while, and in the States being, that's how Kevin Smith made Clerks, right? He maxed out all of his credit cards and borrowed, begged, and stole, and
I never
to make that movie.
Canadian filmmaker.
So
and El Mariachi was made. Sorry, Robert Rodriguez and El Mariachi. He made that movie for $6,000 of his own money. He and David Lynch made Eraserhead with a newspaper route, and I love hearing those stories. It was really inspiring.
So speaking of which,
any means necessary.
Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is also now available, like more than 20 years later now, is available on Tubi. So if you want to check out the film, you can actually go to Tubi. Just Google Tubi and it'll pop up. It's basically free Netflix. A lot of people in Canada don't know about it, but they operate in Canada, the US, the UK, as well as New Zealand and Australia. And you just search Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, it'll pop up, and it's the digitized version of the film that was originally shot on 16 millimeter. Right, Lee?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I was finishing the movie, I went to Toronto and I spent $10,000 on a sound mix. It was a lot of money at the time for me, my own money. I didn't have a distributor, didn't have a producer, self-finance. $10,000 on a sound mix, $12,000 on a negative cut, because I shot on 16 millimeter and to cut my negative and make the optical track and have a 16 millimeter print that we were showing at the Bytown Cinema at the premiere. I spent over $20,000 that weekend. And when it came to doing a VHS transfer, I had $200 left. And I spent $200 on a lousy VHS transfer. And that's the transfer most of the world saw. And crummy that most people saw that lousy transfer. So now the Blu-ray came out, and I believe Tubi's showing the HD version. Thank God. And I hope people who remember seeing it might watch it again just to see it in HD, because the HD version looks more like the 16 millimeter print. But I got to say, spending all that money on 16 millimeter was worth it, because when we got invited to the Cannes Film Festival, and we showed it at the Cannes as the best of the Slamdance Film Festival, we showed our movie in the Palais Cinema, where they had just premiered Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and in the mood for love, the Wong Kar-wai film was just premiered there, and here we are showing our movie. Most people had shot on video were just showing their movies on a VCR in a hotel room, where we had a print, so we got to show in the big theater. So that made it all worthwhile. But man, that $200 transfer, I wish it never happened.
No, and I know about that tab too on the VHS, because I also used to work at a video store. And, just for our younger listeners out there, there was this magical time where there was a bunch of stores everywhere where people could go and rent movies, and you wouldn't know if they were there or not. Yeah, I remember that tab. That's hilarious though. So was it Lethal Weapon 2? Like that's the movie you had to rent?
That's the one. We did it on a few movies, but I think that must have been the first one. Because I always bring up, when I tell the story, I always bring up Lethal Weapon 2. But I did maybe Backdraft. I try to put it on popular movies. I hate Backdraft. Hated Backdraft then, still hate Backdraft. Maybe we should try to put it on better films, but Backdraft was really popular. So, those are just some of the Deceived, the Goldie Hawn, Hudson Hawk. Some of these movies that came out when I worked at Hook, we just throw our movies on the end.
So look, if anyone's listening out there and you have potentially a copy of Lethal Weapon 2, Backdraft, or The Deceived on VHS, you might have a dub version of one of Lee's short films. So you should check that out and let him know, or swing by the Mayfair and drop it off. I'm sure he'd love to have a copy. So let's talk about the Mayfair, and let's talk about 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter and all that fun stuff, because, we talk a lot about independent film and getting projects off the go. But we don't necessarily talk to a lot of people like yourself who are really in the screening business of showing these films to the general public. And I think there's lots of cool stuff to talk about. You've been involved with the Mayfair for the last 12 years. You're co-owner. You're also the film programmer at the cinema. Talk to us about the Mayfair. Give us the rundown, because I know all about it. I've been there, but for people that haven't gone there, what can they expect, and why are you so passionate about film screening there?
I believe it's the second oldest operating cinema in Canada. It opened in 1932. And think about it, 1932, the sound was just becoming a thing in cinema. Movies like Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind hadn't even been made yet. I wish the Mayfair could talk to me and tell me stories. Sometimes when I put on an old movie, I brought my son during the lockdown. I brought my son in and we watched Red River, Howard Hawks' Red River. And I thought to myself, geez, Red River would have screened here when it came out. Mm-hmm. I wondered, does the screen and the speaker say to themselves, I remember this movie. I remember playing this before. 1932. And I also, Tom Cruise grew up in Ottawa a short while, and his first movie he ever saw was at the Mayfair. He saw 2001: A Space Odyssey at the Mayfair, and made him decide, I'll make movies.
Holy jumping!
Isn't that cool?
Chad is gonna freak out. I didn't know that. That's his favorite actor is Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise talked about it at the Oscars when Stanley Kubrick died. He introduced the Oscars and talked about growing up in Ottawa and seeing 2001 and the Space Odyssey on the big screen. And now on the red carpet afterward, he talked about how he saw it. Someone asked him what theater, and he said, it was the Mayflower Theater. The Mayflower is a restaurant on Elgin Street, but he confused it. But it was the Mayfair where he saw it.
You almost got all that residual business, right, from Tom Cruise?
Yeah, I gotta meet. I want to convince Tom Cruise to buy the building now. Anyway,
Tom, if you're listening, but he's a big film. He's a massive film nerd too. I mean, I heard two stories about Tom Cruise, and just through the press, but that he had a kick-ass home theater installed, like the best of the best at his home, and he tries to watch a film a day because he gets new ideas and just the history of film and stuff. And I say what you will about Tom Cruise, but I mean, the guy makes good fucking movies, right? And his filmography is pretty much flawless from front to back.
Yeah, I feel like I'm always separating the artist from the man from the art. I don't care about Tom Cruise. I don't care what he believes in. I don't care what he says politically. I don't follow any of that stuff. Yeah, the quality of filmmaking is what matters to me. And man, he tries hard to make good movies.
I want to see him jump out of a building, man. That's what I care about, right?
Yeah, it's really impressive. He's like the Caucasian Jackie Chan.
So listen, Tom, Mr. Cruise, if you're listening, if you've got a soft spot in your heart for Ottawa still, please consider, maybe buying the building that the Mayfair is in. And that's the first place you saw 2001. That's crazy. So now the Mayfair as well, like you guys do a ton of audience participation screenings. I don't know if there's a particular term for them, but you always do Rocky Horror. You always screen the room. There's a lot of people out there that haven't gone to a screening like that. What can you tell? What can you tell us? Like, what else do you do? How do you put on the shows, and what are the types of things that people can expect if they go to one of these? I guess I would say riots, because that's what they are, right?
I often, when I'm selling tickets, I often get asked by couples. I like when older couples ask me this. When are you showing Rocky Horror Picture Show next? What do we do? And I always tell the man to wear his wife's underwear to the screening and come.
Does that happen? Like, do people do that?
I'd like to think. I mean, there's people running around in underwear all night long to Rocky Horror. I think our Rocky Horror Picture Show performance, and I've seen it in many cities around the world, nothing beats our shadow cast. So the shadow cast comes from all over Ottawa, and some of the actors are from Montreal, and they perform on stage in front of the movie while the movie's on. And it's thrilling, and every night's different, and some of the actors switch up different roles, and it's a really good performance at the Mayfair. They put on a good show, and they try really hard. I'm impressed with those guys. The Rocky Horror Picture Show had its world premiere in Ottawa at the Ottawa Film Expo back when a week before the film was released theatrically, which is kind of crazy. Ottawa was the birthplace of Rocky Horror, so we deserve the coolest screenings. We show it once a month, usually around midnight, and that's a scream. We used to show it. We used to have a print, and we used to be able to show that until Disney took over 20th Century Fox. You know that Walt Disney now owns Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is nuts.
Are they going to give it an amazing Blu-ray release or 4K release like they have done some of their other films? Sorry, Disney. We're not sponsored by Disney, if anyone's curious. Yeah.
They might not admit to owning that movie. It's not on Disney Plus yet.
So I just wanted to jump in on a couple. We got a pretty good audience tonight. I want to just jump onto a couple of comments here. We've got John McIsaac, a longtime listener and viewer of the show. This is amazing. Awesome, John. Thanks for tuning in again. And this is why we wanted to have Lee on, because like, he's got, A, you're a great storyteller, and B, a lot of stuff about the real rich history of these like screenings, the films themselves. Daryl popping into, longtime listener of the show, Blockbuster on a Friday night was something else. Of course, let's see. Our good friend Chris Giroux, Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter is a Canadian classic, and can't wait to rewatch it on Tubi now that he knows that it's there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And of course, talking about you were mentioning, filming your first feature, that film in particular on 60 millimeter. You've got a 35 millimeter projector at the Mayfair. There's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily, they hear these numbers being thrown around, don't really understand necessarily the importance or the impact that those films have on that format. Can you give us sort of a Cole's Notes type rundown of what that means? Because I saw you at Ottawa Comic-Con a few years ago, and you gave this great kind of breakdown of sort of like what everything meant and why 35 millimeter was such a great asset to still have.
Yeah, I think about that. I thought about that recently. Who Framed Roger Rabbit just came out on 4K Blu-ray. And all these new releases are coming out on 4K, but a lot of new release movies are shot digitally. A lot of movies are being shot on 4K, or, everything's being shot digitally now. So 4K movie of a 4K film that was shot 4K digitally, I don't know, it just looks as good as it did in the theater. But a movie shot on 35 millimeter, scanned at 4K, and now 35 millimeter is still equivalent to 6K, they say. But consider the fact that movies have been shot on 35 millimeter since the dawn of the moving image. The moving image was created in 1895, and all these old movies that were shot on 35 millimeter now can now be scanned at 4K. And I feel like old movies aren't old anymore. When I was a kid and I went to the video store and watched King Kong or Citizen Kane, I always felt like I was watching an old movie. You know, the quality, you know, they're in black and white. The quality wasn't rich. Sometimes you're watching scans of a 35 millimeter print, and if the projectionist decided to cut out a scene to make the movie shorter, then that's what you watch. Now, I think home video is now at a point where it's never been as good to watch a movie, and they're going in and they're restoring these films, and they look better than they ever have looked before. Who Framed Roger Rabbit on 4K Blu-ray? I was amazed how good it looked. The blacks are real, you know, like it's not a dark gray or a light gray. They're rich. And I was just, it looked like I had a 35 millimeter projector in my basement watching it here. I don't know. I keep telling everyone I know, old movies aren't old anymore. They're, you know, maybe some of them are black and white, but they look like they were shot yesterday.
That's my feeling too. Like I got into 4K, and it's not like I didn't believe in it. I was just like, I feel like Blu-ray is enough. For years, I was like, nothing's ever going to look as good as Blu-ray, like in your home, right? Like, I mean, the theater is still going to be the theater. They got a screen bigger than whatever, right? So, but I was like, I bought the first 4K. I bought a PS5 before we went into lockdown last winter. I was like, I'm going to get a 4K screen, and I'm going to get a 4K a PS5, because at least that'll give me something to do throughout the winter. And the first movie I got was The Shining on 4K, and I had the Blu-ray, and I put the Blu-ray in, and I go, well, that looks good. Like, and I wanted to do a straight comparison, and I said, I don't have a problem with that picture.
Right.
And then I put the 4K in, and I was like blown away. Like it was, like the color grading, the grain, and I don't know if you can talk to the grain in film, because it's a bit of an odd topic. A lot of people don't understand why it's there. They think if grain is on the screen, it's a bad thing, where it's actually creates more depth of field in the image that you're watching. It makes it more of a 3D image, right?
The Shining on 4K looks better than Dr. Sleep on 4K.
Yeah.
Dr. Sleep was shot digitally, and The Shining was shot in 35 by Stanley Kubrick. So it looks incredible. That's a good picture quality.
And I find that the restoration stuff, like for the older films, because it's or anything that isn't heavy on CGI, because they can't, what I've read and researched is that they can't really finish the CGI at 4K because it'll take too long to process. So they film at 4K, down convert to 2K, finish all the CGI, then up convert to 4K again, and then put it on disc. The only film, it's funny too, because I went to, when I saw Joker in the theater, that's a movie that for some reason blew me away, like from a visual point of view. Like, and I don't know why, it just looked amazing. And apparently it was shot at 6.5K digitally, and that's why it looks so good. So they basically shot it as high as digital they could to make it replicate 35 millimeter, apparently. So 4K, make sure you get that. Film fans out there, make sure you get 4K. It's like watching, and also as well, like I just watched Close Encounters on 4K the other night, and it's like watching the film for the first time. Like it's like you see so much more detail. I don't know. It sounds weird, but it's.
I remember Laserdisc I had this feeling with Laserdisc. I felt like Laserdisc was this great leap, because with Laserdisc, for the first time, I was watching movies that I was in love with in widescreen. I loved the James Bond movies as a kid, but they were always in pan and scan. And then you watch the James Bond movies on Laserdisc, and it's like, whoa, there's twice the image here, because they put the black bars on the top or the bottom. You get twice the image. But speaking of the black bars, it drives me crazy. The black bars are now used in chain cinemas to show CinemaScope movies in smaller screens. I hate that. The Mayfair is a real movie theater. The Bytown Cinema is a real movie theater. These two cinemas in Ottawa, where the image, when you show a CinemaScope movie, the screen gets bigger.
Right.
But chain cinemas are like 12 or 24 screens in one room, one building, and the rooms are square. And the only way you can get an image that's that wide into a square screen is putting the black bars on the top of the bottom. And I can't believe that's what black bars are used for today. It drives me nuts.
Well, it's like, that's when I watched the Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it was all shot. It's all cut in IMAX, which would have probably looked amazing in IMAX, but I laughed because I was like sitting on the couch and I was like everyone else watching it at home on, whatever HBO. And it was just like, how funny is it that I'm watching like a square image now, like on a widescreen TV, like, but I mean, I love the IMAX stuff. I love it when they pop the image open on certain Blu-ray releases or 4K releases. It looks really good.
First time I noticed that was The Force Awakens.
Yeah. And
during The Force Awakens, it would open up during some scenes.
A lot of the Chris Nolan movies do it, and I don't think they did it on Dune for some reason. So I'm interested to see. But I heard Dune 4K is one of the best releases of the year already, as far as so. Listen, we do have it's this time of the program, Lee. I kind of mentioned this in passing, but we do have a rapid fire section to our program where we ask you, the guest, a bunch of rapid fire questions, and you have to give us honest answers. Of course, are you down to do that for us right now? It won't take long.
Like Superman, I can't lie, so there'll be nothing but honest.
Awesome. Well, this is our rapid fire section. It's brought to us by Wellington Brewery's Helles Lager. Obviously, they are one of our sponsors for the program, and take advantage of Wellington's free local delivery, or you can visit their brewery retail store located here in Guelph, Ontario. They're one of the oldest microbreweries in the country, or you can pick up some cans wherever your favorite adult beverages are sold. That includes the LCBO in Ottawa, Lee. So if you feel like doing that, you can. But Helles Lager, Helles, yeah. And this is our rapid fire section. Lee, are you ready to go?
I think so.
Okay, here we go. So rapid fire, yes or no. Has anyone, you mentioned this too, because you said you're the worst pronouncer of your own last name before we came on the air.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. Has anyone ever referred to you as the Demarbra man? Like the Marlboro man, but friendlier.
No, I've not heard that one, but okay. I'd love to hear it.
Well, newsflash, you now have a new nickname. Okay, rapid fire, moving on. You got to pick one. Out of all the film franchises in cinema history, which franchise has the best fourth installment? And we will accept either third sequel or the fourth movie made chronologically.
Friday the 13th.
Okay. The final chapter, kind of.
That's a quick, not really thing. I was going to say
that's a good movie.
I was going to say I like the film Thin Man series a lot, and I like them all. But yeah, I like Friday the 13th 4 just because Tom Savini came back, and the gore and the machete in the head, and yeah,
I feel like that. I think that's the best ending to a film too in that franchise. So
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on. Help us out. Over your entire lifetime, what's the film that you've watched the most times?
Empire of the Sun.
Really?
Spielberg. Yeah, I came to Ottawa and I didn't have a lot of friends. I was always moving schools every 5 years. So it was hard. I was always saying hello and goodbye to friends. And when I came to Ottawa, I kept going to see that movie. That and Who Framed Roger Rabbit over and over and over again in the theaters. I was in love, and I would sit there with tears in my eyes. Not because I was moved by the drama, because I was moved by the quality of filmmaking in both films. As a young person, Who Framed Roger Rabbit to me is probably the most complicated movie ever made in Hollywood. I would love to see a version of that movie without the animation, with all the animatronics, all the wires and everything they were using to make that movie. And Empire of the Sun, yeah, that movie, I own a 35 millimeter print of both of those movies, actually.
That's Empire of the Sun is, I bet you a lot of people out there thought you were going to say Empire Strikes Back, but Empire of the Sun, I think it might be Spielberg's most underappreciated movie.
Personally, it's my favorite. It's funny. I love so many filmmakers. My favorite Steven Spielberg movie personally is Empire of the Sun. It's probably not his best film, but it's personally it's like The Color of Money. It's my favorite Martin Scorsese film personally.
Right.
The Color of Money was a film like Empire of the Sun I kept going to see when I was young. And I was thrilled by the camera positioning and the that movie is his most visual film, I think.
An amazing performance by John Malkovich, and also, of course, a very, 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 very young Christian Bale.
Yeah, he's my age. That's why I liked it too. I remember reading the reviews, and it wasn't a well-reviewed film. Last Emperor was out at the same time. The Last Emperor would go on to win Best Picture, and I think a lot of critics compared them. And I remember the reviews were lukewarm for Empire of the Sun, and I would read them and I would try to understand them because I was a kid. I was Christian Bale's age when it came out. And I remember them thinking that Spielberg looked like he was glorifying the war. And now in retrospect, I realize he was showing you the war through a kid's point of view. So to a kid, the war was exciting. Tanks and planes were exciting, and the kids don't understand the impact of the war. They just see the smell of the engines and the Spitfires, and that's what he was dramatizing. Jim, that's his character name, J.G. Ballard's as a kid, his enthusiasm for the war. And that's what I got as a kid, but I didn't know how to articulate or really even understood till I reread the reviews as I got older. After my balls dropped, I reread the reviews and I could understand why critics got it wrong at the time.
I remember my favorite Spielberg movie is E.T. Hands down, because it was the very first film I ever saw in the theater. And even when I watch it today, the third act of that movie, it always gets me. And I don't know why. It's the music. It's just anyway, this is rapid fire. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but it's for me, that's the movie. And I watched a thing about it, like a behind the scenes thing, a documentary. I can't remember which one, but it was that Spielberg shot the film, like he put the camera position at about 4 feet or 3.5 feet, 4 feet, which is the level of how you would see things as a kid, because you would only be that tall. And they were saying that's why this film's impactful, because most of the film is kind of shot through not only the perspective of E.T., but the perspective of Elliot as well. And I was just like, oh my God, that's probably why I love it so much, right? So,
and he shot it in chronological order. And when I started making movies, I would shoot in chronological order just because I thought that's how you made movies. And as I got older, no, you don't make movies that way. But thinking back in E.T., how effective was that for the child actors? Because they meet E.T. and they're in awe, and when they say goodbye to him at the end, they're crying their eyes out because they were really saying goodbye to E.T. because he shot it that way. It's brilliant.
Wow, amazing. Steven Spielberg, a god amongst men.
Have you seen well, I went to see West Side Story twice. I love West Side Story.
I haven't seen it yet.
Beautiful.
I'm not a big musical guy, with the exception of Willy Wonka and Team America, but I do appreciate musicals. They're just, but I'll check it out because it's Spielberg. It's amazing. Okay, so like I said, not very rapid fire, but next question. All right, so tell us some more. You've talked over the years about the ghosts that allegedly haunt the Mayfair Theatre. I say allegedly because I don't want to get sued by any sort of paranormal legal service. So can you quickly tell us one of those stories?
Well, we've had two different organizations come in, paranormal investigators, and they both determined that there are two ghosts behind the screen and one ghost at the back of the theater sitting in one of the couches who really doesn't like when people sit with him. I understand the one in the cinema is a him, and I think it's a man and a woman behind the screen. So there's three in the cinema. I've not seen anything that made me believe that, but this organization, one of them had recorded something behind the screen that determined all this. And I like looking for, when I was a kid, I wanted to believe in ghosts more than anything. I loved Close Encounters of the Third Kind as a kid so much because I could tell Steven Spielberg wanted to believe in UFOs as much as I did. And I was just, I always looked up to see something. And I always at night wanted to believe in these things. And I've not really ever seen anything that make me believe in ghosts or UFOs. I hope someday I meet these people who are haunting the Mayfair Theatre.
Anything happen if you sit in the couch? Like, has anyone said anything after they've sat in the couch with the?
No, not any people. I think the movies the programming is so good at the Mayfair. People are just watching the movies.
Right. That'll be me as a ghost. I don't like people I don't like strangers sitting next to me during a movie anyway.
Talk to the hand. Yeah, no. To be honest, no. But these are the stories.
Okay, so moving on. Rapid fire. What do you want? You're programming the ultimate triple bill at the Mayfair Theatre. What three films are you picking?
I love this question. When I retire, I'm going to do when I retire, my last night, I got three films all chosen. This is a trilogy to me in my head. Shane, the West, followed by HUD with Paul Newman, and Midnight Cowboy.
Okay.
I feel that. So I don't know if you're familiar with all the films, but in Shane, the young boy is played by an actor named Brandon D. Wilde, and he looks up to Shane, and when Shane leaves, he's sad to see Shane go away. And then in HUD with Paul Newman, Brandon D. Wilde is grown up. He's a teenager now, and he plays HUD's younger brother. And he kind of, to me, when I watch it, he feels like the boy from Shane. It's a little bit more modern setting than Shane,
Right.
but it's the kid from Shane. And I know whoever cast Shane cast him because he's in Shane. And at the end of HUD, Brendan Wild leaves the farm with a transistor radio at his ear, and he gets on a bus. That's the opening of Midnight Cowboy, played by John Voight, not Brendan Wild this time. Brendan Wild is a blonde-haired kid with a cowboy hat on, transistor radio here, and he gets off the bus and he's in New York City. When he checks into his shitty little room that he finds, there's a HUD poster on the wall ripped in half, and that's the director of Midnight Cowboy telling me, oh yeah, this is a sequel to HUD, and
wow.
sequel is a sequel to Shane. At one point in my life, I thought part 4 was Forrest Gump, but I'd have to rewatch Forrest Gump again. I can't remember why I thought Forrest Gump was part 4, but that's it. Shane, HUD, and Midnight Cowboy. That's a great triple bill.
Okay.
Follow the blonde-haired Brendan Wild.
Let us know when that's screening. We'll come down and see it.
Check it out. Good. Like all on 35mm, I hope.
Yes, absolutely. I would expect nothing less. I know we've got a bonus question because I thought of it as I was doing my research for the program. Yes, that's right. Even though we go live, we still do research on the show. But bonus question, I need you to rate this using the 5-star classic film rating system. Could you rate your guest appearance on the Open Mic with Mike Bullard show from all the way back in 2000?
Okay. There's 2 different reviews because have you only seen it on YouTube?
Yes.
Yeah, I put that up on YouTube years ago. I cut out one of his questions. Because I was embarrassed about my response. So the live telecast, I'd give it 1 star, but what's on YouTube is 5 stars. I cut out one stupid thing. I hated how he replied. He was pissing me off all night because he was trying to get my goat. Because Paul Schaefer didn't show up. Paul Schaefer was supposed to be the first guest, and Paul Schaefer was late getting into the airport, so they put me on first, and I just won the Spirit of Slandance, and Mike was trying to give me a hard time, and then when Paul Schaefer came on, he was great. Paul was great, but yeah, it's embarrassing. I like the fact that people still talk about it. And my dad met Mike Bullard recently, a few years ago, and Mike remembered me being on too, according to my dad. But anyway, I think it's better on YouTube than it was live. Because I cut it. I gave it a Star Wars holiday special. No, a Star Wars special edition treatment.
Well, fair enough. And that does it for Rapid Fire. Thanks for being such a good sport about that. And thanks for the insight too. I really appreciate it. Of course, Rapid Fire is brought to you by Wellington Helles Lager, Wellington Brewery's Helles Lager. Of course, you can pick up tins of your favorite beverage wherever your favorite beverages are sold. And I'll tell you this right now, Helles Lager is an easy drinking lager. It's going to be one of your favorite beers for sure. So big thanks to Wellington for sponsoring us. And thanks, Lee, for being such a good sport and answering all of our questions for sure. Listen, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back if you've got a few more minutes to spare. And we're going to talk about how people can actually get in touch with you, support the Mayfair when everything kind of comes back online. And we're going to talk a little bit about your new upcoming project, your 8th feature film. You cool to stick around for a few more minutes?
Sure.
Okay, right on. We'll be right back right after this.
Black Fawn Distro.
Movies, merchandise, available now at blackfawndistribution.com.
Zombies! Go right to the lens. Use the lens. Go right into it. Use the lens. Ah!
And we're back with Black Fawn Distro Takeover Tuesday. I'm joined again with my guest Lee Demarbre. Lee, thanks again for sticking around. That was a quick teaser trailer, I guess not even a trailer, but just a little teaser for your next your 8th feature film called Enter the Dragon. Where are you at with that project? What can you tell us about it?
That shot's not in the movie. That was just a camera that one of my cinematographers brought along. We had a little fun after we finished the day. This movie has been quite the journey. I felt like I needed to go back to my roots a little bit and make something like I did when we made Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, and not specifically like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, but make it like Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, where I would produce my own independent film, shoot on the weekends with friends, and just take our time making and have as much fun as we can making a film. So I started making Enter the Dragon, and we had a script that I was really excited about and to share with my cast and crew. So I arranged a table read at the Mayfair Theatre. All the actors and crew came to that table read, and a minute before I sat down, I found out that my mother was dying of leukemia. And so that became the first half of the production, me dealing with finding all the free time I had in the world to make this movie and all the free time in the world I had to spend with my mom before she passed. And it was actually quite lovely. I spent a lot of time with my mother, spent a lot of time making the movie, and the movie became that for the first half. And then after my mother passed, COVID started. So the second part of trying to make this movie was dealing, during the lockdown. And but the film's been a great distraction for a lot of reasons. And I often think to myself, as fun as it was making the movie, if I never shown anyone, if no one ever sees this movie, it was still worth making because, I went through a lot trying to get it made with everyone involved. I can't wait to show people. I'm really happy with the film. I was a day away from finishing editing on the weekend last Saturday when my hard drive crashed and I lost all my stuff. So I'm spending some money. Hopefully within the week I can get back to work on it. But I'm almost done, and it's a kung fu action comedy horror musical drag queen adventure shot in Ottawa. And, I can't wait. It feels like this one feels like from the people who made Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter.
Does that feel like a sort of a very it's like a giant cycle for you? Like it's 20 years later. And even stuff with your mom. Obviously, there's that. I went through that with my dad a couple of years ago. But like with your mom being so influential and you kind of getting into film and stuff like that, did that sort of come out into, or did you put that into the movie?
Yeah. So my mother played the screaming lesbian in Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter. So this one's dedicated to the screaming lesbian, which the movie opens that way, and it might confuse a lot of people. But I gotta say, my mother's passing was a very positive experience. Because for a year, I spent all my time with her. I would go to the hospital and edit and work on the Mayfair at the hospital. And I wish I'd spent more time with my mother before she got sick. But, she didn't die as fast as they thought she would have. And a lot of people told me it's because I spent so much time with her. And that was really nice. And when my mother passed, I didn't have a meltdown. I just went back to my movie. And so I've always felt as an artist, my movies only reflect the fact that I like movies. You have Atta McGoyan, who has so much to say as a filmmaker, and you have David Cronenberg, who has such a twisted mind. It's incredible to watch his movies and think about what's inside of his mind. I always felt like, I don't really have a lot of things in my life that make me an interesting artist. But for the first time, maybe with this film, you could see a little bit of me in there.
Right.
Because we went through so much making the movie, or maybe you won't, and maybe only I see it. Either way, when I always reflect on the movie, I'll always think of these, amazing things that went on in my life during trying to get it made. It's not even done yet. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I have 6 more shots to film to get into the, to finish the film. I'm almost done editing. We got to start on the score next. color correction, sound mixing. It's nice not being in a rush to finish a movie. And also, I don't want to release a movie now during the pandemic. I'd rather wait till things are more open. After the first time I see a movie in a sold out theater, maybe then it's time to show our film.
Yeah, and please let us know when that's happening too, because I think at that point, I think we're going to be right on schedule to make a big road trip to Ottawa and have some fun in that city. Love Ottawa and love coming to the Mayfair for sure. And I just I just wanted to follow up a couple of comments coming in from our audience. Is just a quick question from Daryl Ayers. I mean, I think I can answer this, but your theater sounds awesome. Are you mainly screening specialty screenings, or do you run new releases as well? You do run new releases, correct?
Mostly
Yeah.
showing new independent, new foreign language, new national, new Canadian movies, documentaries. Yeah, mostly all new movies. But we especially after the pandemic, after certain lockdowns, we're getting bigger crowds for cult classics and horrors. So the week we closed, we were showing Deliverance.
Awesome.
Deliverance, and we showed Spaceballs and Deliverance the week we closed.
Like as a double feature?
No,
Oh.
no. But you can see them both together in one same week. Double features don't work anymore. We can't afford. I took over a failed business, so we had to get rid of double bills. But mostly new movies. But it is fun to see movies you love on the big screen again.
Okay. And this is actually a very particular 35 millimeter question, which is why I wanted to bring it up. But John's just piping in here, just saying, I'm a private 35 millimeter film collector. I run a Kinotone FP20. I don't know what that is. But does your theater still run film? And I think I know the answer to this too. But if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, I think.
We just showed a 35 millimeter print of Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood film.
Oh, wow.
And I like introducing movies on 35. And I always bring up the last reel. Say, this is what we're watching tonight. A lot of people you might not even realize what we're watching tonight, but we're watching film. And I try to make people appreciate it. The fact that this is a positive from the negative that was in the camera on set when Clint Eastwood made the movie. And it's also thrilling to say, I got to stop talking and bring the print back up to the projector so we can finish watching the movie. But we're still, and I also say, if I brought Unforgiven to any other theater in Ottawa, any Cineplex theater, they wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right.
This is the only cinema in Ottawa where you can watch 35 millimeter, and we try to bring in prints as much as we can. And it's great to show 35 millimeter, and it does, especially older films. I mean, anything that was shot on 35 looks great. I have a 35 millimeter print of Attack of the Clones. I don't know why, because it was shot digitally.
It was shot. That's a film that was shot at 2K. Because at the time, Lucas thought that was going to be like. That was it. And so the only resolution you can, any 4K you buy is an upscale. So that film can never be mastered at more than 2K.
It's
but
I saw the world premiere of that movie at the Cannes Film Festival. I went to the first screening, and I remember when it showed in Toronto on DCP. I drove to Toronto to see the first DCP screening. Now I drive to Toronto to see movies on 35 millimeter or being presented on 70 millimeter. But I can't remember. It's crazy to think that I drove to Toronto to see a film projected digitally. And I remember thinking it was too saturated, but now they've made it better.
Yeah. Is there a 35 millimeter print that you have at the Mayfair or that you've seen before that would like, just to get people to say, hey, if you're going to come out and check a 35 millimeter film out, this is one to really start with, and it'll actually kind of, you'll get the difference. Is there a title that comes to mind?
We showed Spaceballs, and my 35 millimeter print of Spaceballs at the time was the print that Mel Brooks showed the studio before he had a final cut. So it had scenes in the movie that aren't on home video. that are not on any DVD release or any Blu-ray. It had extra comedy in it. So that was really cool. We showed a 35 millimeter print of John Woo's Bullet in the Head from Hong Kong that never got released theatrically in North America. Miramax had bought the rights. They dubbed it in English, but decided never to release it. And the only 35 millimeter print that was made in the world was sold on eBay by some jerk over at the Weinstein Company. I can't imagine the Weinstein Company hiring jerks, but they sold it on eBay, and it was purchased by someone I know. And we showed this print that never screened anywhere in the world, and that was thrilling. The Mayfair was the only one to ever screen it. So yeah, I remember Concordia University. We screened it before Apocalypse Now Redux came out. We screened a 16 millimeter print of Apocalypse Now, and I was sitting there watching it, seen Apocalypse Now a million times in my life. Now remember, before Redux, and the movie ended not by fading to black and just stopping. It ended with the Kurtz compound blowing up. So you actually saw the airstrike, and the whole island blew up. And I remember seeing a documentary where Victoria Scarosa, the guy who shot the film, never seen that footage. And we screened this. Concordia has the 16 millimeter print. It's amazing.
That's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, that's a very good film to choose. I would take you very seriously after you. If I just met you and you told me that, I would take you serious.
It was the one film I remember watching, and when I was a teenager, and it was like I was really into film, was getting into film, watching all the staples that you mentioned too. Like, you got to watch this movie and this movie to be taken seriously. And I wasn't doing it other than the fact that I had a list, and I was like, I should watch these movies to know kind of whatever. And it was the first movie. I was on a big Doors kick too, like every dude is in high school, and so I watched that movie, and it was like the first movie that I realized like everything had been put together, like the cinematography, the soundtrack, the acting, the story, the adaptation from Heart of Darkness, which is brilliant. And it was the only movie or the first movie at least, where after the movie was over, I just sat there and thought. I watched all the credits, and then like the DVD player, or sorry, that it would have been VHS at the time. The VCR stopped and spit out the tape. And I just remember sitting there still looking at the screen, because I had never seen anything that was like that intense or that well made. It's a lot of people say it's a hypnotic movie, and I would agree with that. So anyway, listen, I think that sound means that time's running out. I'll give the wheel a final spin. Val's worth nothing, consonant's worth one more comment. I just want to throw this on. John's just commented again saying, thank you for keeping film alive. So,
yes. Well, thanks for knowing that there's a difference between film and video. This whole transition happened and no one talked about it. Like, the industry switched from film to digital. We threw out film. The studios in the warehouses that were storing film in North America destroyed 35 millimeter prints on bandsaws. They took them off the reel and split them and destroyed them, put them in landfills, and no one talked about it. It's like switching from New Coke back to Coke Classic. The world talked about it, but when it came to celluloid, the way we watch movies for 100 years changed, and no one noticed or said anything. And it's sad. And I'm glad people. I want people to notice and think about it. It's like Google. You can go online, you can go to Google, and you can type in the Mona Lisa, and you can look at the Mona Lisa on your laptop, or you can go to the Louvre and see the Mona Lisa for real. And seeing a 35 millimeter print of a movie at the Mayfair, wherever you see a celluloid print, it's like being at the Louvre. That's what I'd like to tell people.
Awesome.
To me, it's like that.
So Spaceballs 35 millimeter. If you see that screening at the Mayfair, go and check it out. Listen, before we let you go, thanks again for doing all this. I know we're in a weird time. I know it's hard for independent theaters. It has been hard over the last 2 years. What is a way? Can you just tell our audience, like, what's a way where people can support maybe the Mayfair itself, or just their independent cinema in general that's located in their community? Like, what can people do to sort of support owners and programmers during this time?
Stop watching Netflix.
Entirely
No, but everyone's so comfortable now over the pandemic. Everyone got so comfortable with Disney Plus and Netflix, and I just want people to remember the best way to watch a movie is in a cinema, and it's not because the screen is bigger. It's not only because the screen is bigger. It's not only because of the sound. Like, I have 7.2 surround sound in my basement. I have a big 4K TV, but seeing movies in the theater is still better because there's a communal aspect you can never get at home. I remember seeing movies like Apocalypse Now for the first time in a cinema, or Airplane. I remember seeing Airplane as a kid. And I still remember, when I watched the movie today, I still remember what the audience was like around me reacting. And you don't have to see a movie with someone you know. You can go by yourself and experience a movie with people, whether they hate it or love it. It's an experience, and you can't get that on Netflix. You can't get it on Disney Plus. You can't get that with your 4K TV and your 7.2 surround sound. Cinema is the seventh art, and please try to respect that by seeing movies as much as you can in the movie theater. And you know what? It'd be sad the day we talk about movie theaters the way we talked about video stores. That'll be a sad day, and I hope I never live to see it.
Yeah. And surely you're serious too, right? So
yes,
just a little airplane reference there for anyone in the know. It's my favorite. It's my favorite joke. It's my favorite joke.
My mom took us to the theater.
Listen, Lee, thanks again for joining and coming on the program. We really do appreciate everything you do, especially for us. You screen a couple of our films. I wanted to kind of throw up just a couple of quick photos as well, just so people realize that we're telling the truth. But you did screen Disco Path. There it is on the marquee on the Mayfair when we screened that movie, directed by Ron, our good friend Ronnie Renaud Gauthier, and of course, I'll Take Your Dead, Chad Archibald's sort of crime ghost story there at 9:30 on the Mayfair marquee as well. But just wanted to throw those up as a little bit of a flashback. Thanks again for doing this. Of course, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. I think this is great. This is awesome. I know you're a great storyteller, both in film as well as in person. So appreciate doing the program. Of course, that concludes another episode of Takeover Tuesday. Lee, stick around just after we just go off the air, just so we can chat just for a couple seconds. But we're broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Of course, you can also catch one of our retransmissions on any of the major streaming podcast platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Whatever platform you're tuning in on today, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe. And of course, make sure you follow Lee on Instagram as well as the Mayfair on Instagram as well. You can his handle is Lee_Demarbre, and the Mayfair is at Mayfair Theatre. And again, if you want to check out Lee's filmography, all the stuff he's worked on, his upcoming projects, make sure you just pop his name into YouTube. Check out that channel. Make sure you subscribe to that channel as well, and you'll get the updates on all the new cool stuff that he's coming out with, including Enter the Dragon.
Oh, that's a good
Which
one.
is what kind of genre again? Because I'm not going to say that.
It's a kung fu action comedy horror musical.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. And again, Lee, thanks again for visiting. We hope to see you soon, and all the best in 2022. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Bye.
And that does it for another episode of Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and help us spread the word about the program and our incredible guests. If you're interested in grabbing some more information about Black Fawn Distribution or want to check out our film titles and merchandise, you can find us online at blackfawndistribution.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsors: Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course, Black Fawn Distribution. Just a reminder, you can always catch Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday live on Facebook, YouTube, and our other social media platforms. Or pick up one of our retransmissions on any of the major streaming platforms. Until next time, I'm your host Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we'll see you soon.